Hey kids, it's me, Kevin Smith. Watch my interview with Mojito, man. Watch me down a mojito with Mojito. It's funny stuff.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Mojito with Majeeto, and we're here for episode 5 with none other than Kevin Smith himself, the king of comics and pop culture.
Oh my God, you're too sweet. That is way too weighty a sobriquet to lay on me, man. But thank you so much. How are you, Mojito? Excellent seeing you. I
I
see
was
you
about
made
to
it
say, how
home
are you, man?
from. I'm good. How was your journey home from Chronicon?
It was a 14-hour flight. It was very tiring, but Chronicon was so legendary. It was so unreal meeting you, all of you guys, and getting to experience Hollywood Babylon and all of that. But I'm so glad we're here doing our interview. I'm recording from my phone, but it is what it is. At least we're here with our interview.
I'm recording from my phone too, and normally I'm at my office at home, but now I'm at the office at the movie theater.
Yeah. But how's the family? How are you, man?
Family is good. Jen is home. Harley's back home. I left them like 2 days ago, so I'm in Jersey for 2 days. Yesterday we had an event. Tonight we're having an event, and then tomorrow I go to Florida and see my mom.
Oh, nice, nice. So, Mr.
You
Silent
brought your
Bob.
mom with you to
Yeah,
Chronicon.
yeah, yeah.
How damn
She was really
adorable
happy
was
to meet
that?
you. She was so like happy that everyone was so down to earth and all of that. But I was about to ask for the first question, Mr.
Okay.
Silent Bob. You have so many upcoming projects, supposedly, and Mallrats is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I have to ask, what's up with Twilight of the Mallrats? Any big
Um,
updates on the film, and how
no big
different is it going to be from the first movie comedically and tonally?
No big updates. Still hoping that Universal sees their way clear to letting us play with the title. It's their title and their movie, and they don't really care about it. Um, and Universal historically has never let a title in their library go. So what we're asking them is to do that. Like, hey, we can, I know you guys don't care about it. We can turn it into something. So we're hoping that they see it our way, but no new development there yet. In terms of like what its tone, like it really the way that Jay and Silent Bob Reboot was very much a sequel to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Twilight of the Mallrats is very much a sequel to Mallrats in terms of all the characters return, but then we add a new generation, Brody's
Yeah,
daughter, Banner. So fingers crossed we get to do that. But I just wrote a comic book for Quick Stops in honor of next year, the 2025 is the 30th anniversary of Mallrats.
oh
So
nice, yeah.
that'll be out, but hopefully we get some good news yet about maybe moving forward.
I'm very excited for that, man. And another movie of yours that is in the works is Jay and Silent Bob Store Wars. And I believe
Yeah,
you said in Hollywood Babylon episode, you said earlier this year that you and Jay would start filming later this year, I think. And
that
have you
that
shot
didn't
anything for the film?
yeah, that didn't wind up happening. So our money for the movie is not going to clear until next year. So that looks like the earliest we'll be starting is March, which
Oh,
is, it was, we thought we'd be able to get it in before the end of the year, but we were not. The money wasn't there for us. So in
yeah.
March, it looks like we'll be ready to go.
Well, do you think you could let us know what the film is going to be about, or what
Yeah.
should we expect?
In this flick, Jay and Silent Bob have their own weed store, their own dispensary, and they're doing well. But then across the street, a new dispensary opens up, and it's about the battle between the two dispensaries. And the people that run the other one are like the opposite, complete opposites of Jay and Silent Bob. So it's a funny flick,
Yeah.
a feud movie kind of thing.
And MUFCC, which is Middle East Film and Comic Con, which is the most popular convention in my country, UAE. You actually joined the panel back in 2017 over Skype for MUFCC. And I want to ask, would you perhaps want to actually come to MUFCC for like 2025 or something and meet all of the Middle Eastern fans? And I asked
Yeah,
him in our interview, and he said he's down.
he's very down. Absolutely, man. Like, I know it's a long flight, as you told me,
Yeah.
but the year that they were asking about me going over, it was impossible. So we did the Zoom thing. But in the future, I would go over in a heartbeat. It'd be lovely to see.
Yeah, that'd be so awesome to meet you guys once again. And on my interview with Jay, I asked him which actors he would love to work with slash have in a Jay and Silent Bob movie, and he said he would like to have Vincent D'Onofrio or Jason Momoa. So it feels right to ask you which actor would you personally love to have in an upcoming Jay and Silent Bob movie, Jay and Silent Bob Star Wars.
I couldn't argue with those two. Those would be fun people to work with. But who would I want to work with? I mean, let's see. Um, Bill Murray. I know, he's old
Yeah,
and I'm old too, but like we grew up watching Bill Murray movies. So on some level, it'd be nice to pop Bill Murray into one of the flicks. But that some people have said who've worked with him, they're like, "Do you like Bill Murray?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Then don't work with him." I was like, "Okay."
but another one is in most of your films, you brilliantly insert aspects of your life from your personal life, especially as seen in the 430 movie. So, what more of your life story do you think you can include in your other films?
I don't know. I tend to go into my young life all the time. And 430 movie was me digging even further back into my teenage years. Um, but I don't know. Every once in a while, people are always like, "Why don't you do Jay's story?" Um, about addiction. But that seems like a story
Yeah,
that Jay should do himself more so than me.
yeah,
But
definitely.
I don't know if there's that there's anything on the horizon that's like pulling from my personal life. Like I'm writing this movie about devil worshippers, and like that doesn't pull from my life at all, except that like growing up, I love devil worship movies and stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, nothing at the moment that's more personal than like the comics. Um, and there's a TV show we're working on, but it's so early, and we'll see how that goes. We got like picked up, which is good, but then there's so many steps before you become a pilot, so we'll see.
Speaking of TV shows, I heard that you were talking about like a Dogma TV show or something like that in another interview. So, would you want to do something like that, perhaps?
That'd be awesome. Like now that Dogma is free from where it's been kind of imprisoned for years, it'd be nice to be able to possibly do a streaming show if somebody was interested. So the people who now have the title asked me if I wanted to, do you want to be involved with that? I said, oh my God, absolutely. So when all the dust is settled, like next year, I think we'll definitely be taking that in other places to see if they want to continue the story.
Also, I just wanted to ask, like, this is a personal question also, but how do you deal with hate?
Oh, well, it's been 30, let me see, I've been doing this job for 30 years. Like, in fact, in January, it'll be 31 years since Clerks went to Sundance. And I've been online since late 95, let's say early 96. So I've been online for almost that entire time. And I'm sad to say, Mojito, that in all that time, there has always been somebody online to tell me that I suck at my job and I'm terrible and why do I bother and all these things. That negativity has been around like since the beginning. Like and so over 30 years because of the advent of the internet, because when I started there was not the internet as we know it now. I watched that become even more vitriolic because of the anonymity. Anybody can say whatever they want and stuff. It takes a somewhat of a tough shell. You can't really have a thin skin. And there have been moments when I've succumbed to the hate and gone back at it, and as if I'm getting in a war of words online with a stranger who has the advantage because they know everything about me and I know nothing about them. And, they can point to my movies. I can't even point to theirs. So that has always existed. And it's the question of if it's when does it get so overwhelming that you're like, it's not even worth doing anymore? And so far, I'm happy to report that in 30 years, that hasn't happened where I've gotten to the point where I'm like, there's so much fucking hate for what I do, that I'm not going to do it anymore. There's hate out there in general, which you can't control as a person. Even the hate that comes at you, if you can't control that hate, there's no way on earth you could control just the hate and ignorance in general that kind of swims around out there. It's I just try to be as positive as possible. Even when people kind of go at me, I used to respond and try to take them down. Now, if I respond at all, it's to kind of make a joke or sell a ticket or something like that.
Yeah.
So I try to turn that negativity into at least something positive. Like, you know, I'll find a tweet that's like really nasty and then hook it up to a link that sells something or whatnot. It's at the origin of that is a tweet that made me feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, no denying it. It worked. Whatever they said bugged me. But, I'm like, okay, do I let it live and fester or do I try to spin it and turn it into something positive comes out of it? That's one way to deal with it. It's not, it's certainly not like, and that will cure everything. If I knew how to handle like hate online or in the real world, man, I probably would have managed my career differently. So it just comes with the territory. It's a shame to have to say that, but like I've thought about it for years in terms of like, you know, I've been living online, a creature of the internet for very nearly 30 years. And it has put me in touch with some of the most beautiful people in the world who say some of the warmest things about me or my work that I've ever seen written, or on a vlog or something like that. And yeah, there's definitely been the complete flip side of that with people saying the most heinous things that are really hurtful and whatnot. But I don't know. I guess the good outweighs the bad in terms of being able to reach out to people, that many people. Um, there's it's you got to wade through. Well, you don't. Nobody has to do anything. It's a choice, and I kind of choose to wade through the hate. It's like just recently, I guess, what in France they had the Olympics and they made them go swimming in the Seine, and like the Seine is full of like some trash or sewage or whatever fuck. You just gotta swim around the shit. It's that simple. Like,
Yeah.
it's you can be rewarded because periodically when you get through the shit, you'll find something wonderful waiting on the other side. But yeah, there's a lot of shit to wade through. Mojito, oh boy.
So poetic. Very well said. But another one is a kind of a funny question. But now you're someone who are very close to both of these actors, and it's been such a big topic on the internet. And I'd like your take on it. Are Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in love?
Yeah, and not in love. Like they'll get married one day, but oh my God, those two dudes love each other the same way that Jay and I like love each other. Think about the unique experience that they have been through together. Like in terms of one day they were just like actors struggling to get cast in people's movies. Then they wrote their own flick and it changed their lives. They've gone through that entire experience together. They know where they came from. They came from the same place. And then this happened to them. And it's always nice if something like this is going to happen to you, where like, your life changes overnight and suddenly you become the thing that you tell people that you are. It's nice to have somebody who was there with you when it began, like somebody who will always act as kind of a barometer, somebody you can always kind of measure yourself against, not in competition, but just to make sure that the unimportant and less important things aren't taking your attention as much, or that you're not slipping away and becoming, like some empty entertainment business Hollywood shadow or some such shit. So
Totally.
coming up with like a guy who was there and knew me when has been insanely helpful in keeping me normal. And Ben and Matt's success is 1,000 times more public and greater than mine. And so I would imagine they are a very grounding influence for one another, having come up together and maintain careers that, are dreams come true. So I think they're absolutely in love, not enough to get married, but definitely enough to they'll always be friends, right? I don't think I've ever heard of those two dudes ever having a fallout. I mean, I've heard them having like an argument or whatever, but nothing like long lasting or whatever. A
Yeah.
disagreement maybe. So yeah, they very much like Jay and I, except they have all the money and success.
But and it's kind of ironic also since we are in an interview, but out of all of the interviews we've been in, who is your favorite talk show host and why?
I like going on late night with Seth Meyers. I have a really good time there. I mean, I like Colbert as well. But I think I've done Myers now more than I've done Colbert. And when I go, I just write a script and just have him like perform rather than him interview me and stuff. And some people don't like that. They're like, well, just be interviewed. But I'm like, what's he gonna ask that nobody in the world hasn't asked before? Like, I've been doing this 30 fucking years. Like anybody who is being introduced to me for the first time, there's a lot of material they could go through prior to that. So in that moment, I kind of like focus on just doing like an entertaining, segment. Like I got 7 minutes of national airtime. I'm not thinking about how do I sell my movie in 7 minutes. Like I I can't. Like they'll run a clip. People will become aware that it's there and stuff. I always feel that if I'm more engaging or if they're like, oh, he's funny, then they're more inclined to go see the movie. So I tend to love going on Seth because then I can write a bit and have him perform, man. And there's also a piece of it that feels good if the bit works or if he thinks it's funny because he's a pro and he worked on Saturday Night Live and stuff. So that kind of validation means something to this broken codependent soul.
I really loved you on Myers, but it's always confusing to me why haven't you gone on Conan that much? You were on him very briefly.
Yeah, back in the day, I was on Conan, I think twice.
Yeah,
But like he was the first talk show. I mean, the Jon Stewart talk show, which was on MTV, that was the first one I was ever on. But I think Conan was the first like legit late night talk show that I was ever on. Yeah, I don't know. When he went to TBS, I never went to the show. At one point, we were pitching a show that could have been the show that ran after his show on TBS. And so I met with like his producer and whatnot. But then I think they like poo-pooed it. I think they were like, we'd rather have somebody we know take that after
yeah,
spot show. So but I was never, yeah, I haven't been on a Conan show since he was on NBC.
yeah. Also, like since you've always been with a bunch of celebrities, and I'm sure you have so much experiences, do you have any embarrassing celebrity interactions?
I mean, none that I haven't talked about, like at great length. The Bruce Willis stuff is not my shining hour. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've always been fairly candid
Yeah,
about my interactions with famous people. Um, and because I still, no matter how long I've been doing this, I've been doing it like 30 years, but I still get excited when somebody famous comes in. Like, there's still that sense of like childlike wonder that comes along with it, even though, I'm a veteran at this point. But yeah, I can't think of anything that I haven't really talked about. Generally, when I have an interaction with somebody famous, As soon as I'm on a stage or doing a podcast after that, I'm like, oh my God, guess what happened?
Yeah. But also, like, back on the movies, whatever happened to the movie Kilroy Was Here? I mean, it's impossible to find, and I believe it's an NFT movie, and
Yeah,
nobody knows
the
that
company
it's
that picked it up
comedy.
released it as an NFT.
Yeah,
That was their idea. They wanted to pick it up for that purpose. They wanted to prove that their blockchain technology was secure and strong. So they picked up the flick and released it as an NFT. And I was never told how many people bought it, if anybody bought it. Like, but they paid us very handsomely for it. So yeah, I got to find out if we're allowed to like now just take it out conventionally beyond their release. We showed it at Smodcastle once, and it went really well. So we got to do that again. We meant to do it around Halloween, but it got away from us.
yeah. Because I was so interested in that movie. Like, goodness, you can't watch it anywhere. And I was like,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they're the blockchain company. Like the greatest advertisement for their blockchain is that it didn't get out. Like,
yeah,
but I guarantee you, if you search the internet, it's got to be findable. Like somebody must have burned it.
yeah. Also, I don't think anyone's ever asked this, but do you have any horror stories, like an experience that happened to you that left you terrified or something like that?
Um, I mean, I wound up in the nut house 2 years ago. That was pretty terrifying. Um, the heart attack, I guess, the heart attack never scared me. And not because I was like, I'm brave, just because it was all so fast
Yeah,
that there was no real time to get scared. And then suddenly it was just like, hey, this is happening. Um, so yeah, no, like most people, I'm scared for the future, particularly right now. But that's just more existential fear than anything else. You can't do anything about that.
so
Spending time litigating the past or fretting about a possible future, they told us was, complete waste of time. They said the best place for you to be is the here and now, present, mindful, and whatnot. So, and on that scale, then the things that make you afraid are things that happen kind of in the moment and whatnot. Like, oh my God, I almost got hit by a car. I try not to live in too much like fear. It's not good for business, as they say. It's tough to like, do the job if you're scared. Can't second guess yourself and you can't second guess life. And honestly, again, like after the heart attack, like death stopped being so scary. I was like, oh shit, well, there's my warning. Now I better enjoy everything from now until the end.
great
I
answer.
guess, but I guess if there was a fear though, yeah, it would be like, what if it all ends before you get to do everything you want to do, say everything you want to say, which is like, that's a pretty decent fear to have as an artist, but it doesn't really govern your existence, other than the fact that like, all right, well, I'm gonna try to make another thing, but I would try to make stuff all the time regardless. That's now that once they let me put my foot in the door, that I haven't stopped for 3 decades.
Yeah, I really feel the same way. And I just wanted to ask, what is your few of your favorite movies this year?
I loved The Substance. I thought that was great. Um, oh, there was an alarm. I've rewatched that now twice. I thought that movie was phenomenal, and there were a bunch of people that were like, oh, when they saw it before I did, they're like, you gotta see it, man. You made Tusk. You got to see this movie. I think their movie like had a clear thought in its head. I think ours was just madness, but I think The Substance was like actually a well-made, well thought out film with a lot to say. I think that might be my like favorite flick of the year. That Deadpool Wolverine was pretty great. What else have I watched recently that I liked? Oh
The
man,
Force
what did I just
Awakens?
see? What was it? Oh, it's a movie with Kyle Gallner in it.
Oh, Strange
Strange
Darling?
Darling. Strange Darling. So
Yeah,
fucking great, man. In terms of like indie film, in terms of film, period. It's like I love a story that chops up its narrative in time, so it takes you on a different sort of ride. But I could not guess where that movie was going at every turn. I thought that was absolutely wonderful.
So unique.
Yeah, very, very super unique.
Have you seen the movie Snack Shack? That is like the most Kevin Smith movie that was not directed by Kevin Smith.
Which Snack Shack, everyone keeps telling me that, like, especially after the 4:30 movie, they're like, "Have you seen Snack Shack? Like, this would be a great double feature with Snack Shack." So
Exactly.
I'll peep that out coming up.
What is your biggest film or TV show pet peeve?
I mean, I guess like my only like, there's no tropes that tick me off. Like, whatever works works and stuff. Um, I, I I mean, now I'm spoiled in terms of like I can't stand when they put up one show a week like it used to be when I was a kid. You love the big drops, so you could just binge and watch like 8 to 10 hours of a program. Um, but that's more about distribution than creation or production. I'm trying to think, what are my pet peeves when it comes to shows? I don't know. I think honestly, because like I don't make TV, but I make other things. And generally speaking, like if it doesn't appeal to me, I'm not going to spend time with it. And so, it never gets to the point where I've grown irritated with a certain type of show because I just don't consume that certain type of show. Um, there does seem to be a prevalence of murder podcasts out there. When I was starting in podcasting in 2007, it was more just like sitting around with your friends and talking about stuff. And now, there's a $1 billion business uh, behind and that became of podcasting. And it's a lot of them are political and not quite up my alley and whatnot. Honestly, yeah, that was more so than like TV or movies. That podcasting, which was something I always advocated for, like everybody should do a podcast, but that it became such like an important medium. It was something I couldn't have predicted, and I was there early. But now I guess if I had any complaint about that was, I got there too early. It'd be nice to be like at the height of my podcasting powers right now, but I enjoyed it like while it lasted. Um, yeah, no tropes out there, Mojito, that like get me. Like
Should I give you one
anybody
example?
say again?
Should I give you one example of a trope of
Go
a
ahead.
like in 80s horror movies, whenever they have like that one cop or like one parent like that doesn't believe the main character, then they end up getting killed or something. That always annoys me personally.
I mean, I was raised with that trope. That is in every 80s movie growing up, so I'm just kind of accustomed to it by this point. I tell you, the one thing I do like, or it's not so much a trope, but the change that has happened in the way people consume media is that everyone seems to watch with the subtitles on now, which is pretty amazing. Like
What?
I'm all for reading a movie and reading a TV show, even ones that are in my own language that I can
Yeah,
understand. It's just nice to have the script on the screen in
I
addition.
love subtitles, man.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask, since you're such a big comic, I wouldn't say nerd, but like king of comics kind of guy.
Thank
What is like your favorite like kind of comic storyline from Marvel or DC you would want to see adapted into live action personally?
I mean, they've done variations of Dark Knight Returns and Crisis on Infinite Earths, but to see like flat out, truthful adaptations of that material would be great. Seeing like a real Dark Knight Returns would be pretty amazing. We've seen elements of it at work in Batman v Superman, but to see the full story told, one of my favorite Spider-Man stories of all time is Craven's Last Hunt, Fearful Symmetry. I would love to see them do that. It's not even an expensive Spider-Man movie, and now that they're introducing the character of Craven, Possible, but I doubt they'll do it and stuff. There are a lot of cool stories, man, that like you see they'll take elements of and do kind of bastardized versions of those stories. But the ones, like I'm a big fan of the Question comic book character. They can do that character's entire story arc, including, when Vic Sage is replaced by Renee Montoya. And they'll probably get around to it now. James Gunn's DC universe, I imagine, is gonna, go in directions that no one else has gone before with those characters. So, eventually we'll probably get to see the stuff that I read comics about in the late 80s and early 90s, like Justice League Europe and stuff. We're already seeing it. Superman Legacy's got Hawk Girl, Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific. So we're starting to see characters from Justice Leagues that, you never imagined you would see on the big screen. So, I'm trying to think if there's any. Yeah, I think hands down, Dark Knight Returns would be the one that I would love to see them
How about
adapt
like
faithfully.
how about comic characters like onomatopoeia or something like that?
Oh, that'd be amazing. Well, let me tell you, man, like so onomatopoeia, they used onomatopoeia in Superman and Lois, that show that was on the CW, or still is. They're almost wrapped up now. So last season they used onomatopoeia as a villain. And when I saw that, I was like so excited because I was like, oh my God, we're gonna get rich, man. And so I called Phil Hester because Phil Hester and I created the character together.
Yeah,
I was like, Phil, onomatopoeia, like, is on the Superman show. And he's like, I saw that. I was like, oh my God, like, so we're gonna get paid, right? And he's just like, yeah. He's going, but try not to spend it all in one place. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, how they figure it out, what the percentage is. He's like, is kind of Byzantine math, but at the end of the day, it only equals like maybe $1,600, like max or something like that.
yeah,
So, look, they don't have to give you anything at the end of the day, but, and it was just cool seeing the character up there. But yeah, onomatopoeia moving into live action twice now, once in Superman and Lois, and then once in Batman Cape Crusader, the cartoon, made me no richer whatsoever.
who would you want to
So
play?
I'd love to see the character being used though. That's awesome.
Who would you want to play him in the DCU?
Onomatopoeia. I mean, I think it would be great to get like, this is not my dream, but like since the character doesn't really talk that much, like to get somebody who is known for like performance, especially because he doesn't talk and he wears a mask. So Daniel Day-Lewis.
I was thinking of a better choice, Kevin
Who?
Smith.
I've been rehearsing my whole career, Mojito, to play onomatopoeia. But I don't think I'm going to put asses in seats. If there's one thing that I know about Kevin Smith, he won't sell tickets. Daniel Day-Lewis, though, people might show up for
That would be hilarious.
that.
But also, like, here's another like thing that's like I've seen on internet, like so many people, like whenever like people post like clips from 2000s comedies, and in the comment section, people would say like, "Oh, they don't make movies like this anymore," like, and someone like you who has made movies like that, like Jane and Bob Strike Back, and also made very bold movies like Dogma. Do you think they could make movies like 2000s comedies nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just tastes change and storytelling changes. So the people like, a lot of people talk about, hey man, you made 90s movies. But in my head, I never thought of them as 90s movies because we were in the 90s. It was just happening. But I was influenced by 80s movies. What is Mallrats if not like an homage to 80s movies? So, but I was able to do it because nobody cared at that point. Like, that's why I kind of stood out because people were like, why would you homage an 80s movie at this point? So it really is up to the taste of the filmmaking crowd and more importantly, whoever finances, right? So at the end of the day, like the fact that they're not making movies like they did in the 2000s or the noughties, as they say, has everything to do with the studio being like, well, we're not paying for that. There's no money in it. And it's not so much in the case of R-rated comedy, it's not them going like we're woke and we're crushing, we're gonna stamp down on this kind of shit. It's just that don't pay the bills anymore. Like used to be a low budget, mid budget comedy, you could expect pretty decent returns on and whatnot, but not so much anymore. Now it's all spectacle. Now it's just like big tentpole movies, franchises, and stuff like that. So comedy looks like it's gone, the way of indie films, which is to the streamers, and now they pull it out for 8 episodes and make it a series as opposed to a movie. But I still think you can get away with weird shit. Like I don't believe or subscribe to the theory that like, hey man, people are too woke. Like, no, that's not what's doing it. What's why you don't see more of the movies like you would like to see. Number one is like the people, the gatekeepers are just like, nah, we don't want to pay for that. That's where an indie film movement comes from, right? Like it comes from a frustration point with a bunch of artists who are like, they're not making the kinds of movies that I want to see or that I would like to make. And so they kind of take it under their own steam. They decide, well, you know what? Then I'm going to do it. And that's kind of how I started. That's what created me in the first place. So I think the frustration anyone may be feeling right now, creatives may be feeling right now, could fuel the next indie film boom, which could be coming our way because there is a lot of frustration out there. And now the system, which always seemed impenetrable, seems even more so. So I think when that happens, people get the idea that, you know what, like, I don't need them. Let me try it by myself. And that's where you start to see fantastic ideas take root and take shape. And that's where you also see an example of something that a studio goes like, all right, now make one of those, and then suddenly starts leaning in that direction and stuff. It's just something I can't say that this is necessarily like a formula for sure, but just something I've noticed over the course of like 30 years, the trends and what have happened and whatnot. That being said, take it all with a grain of salt. I've never made a movie that made more than like 30 million bucks. So, I only know this much of what I'm talking about, Mojito.
No, but I still find it crazy that people would comment that stuff because with the stuff that you put in Jay and Silent Bob reboot and Clerks 3, like have they not seen those movies? But
Yeah, it's true. But it's there's lots of weird boundary pushing stuff out there, and I'm honestly like too old to be that guy. At age 54, it's like you're not looking to me to push boundaries. You want to look to somebody young to do it. I want to have like a David Lynch career where I just do my own weird little thing right up until they stop giving me money, and then wait a few years and maybe they'll give me money again. But if not, finance it myself, make a movie at my own house like he did. I've always been thankful that I started indie because it's allowed me to be able to pivot back and forth and into a different place where, if the studio side of things are like, we don't really care about your shit, then I'm like, okay, I'll go back over here and do it myself.
last but not least, what do movies mean to you?
What have movies meant to me? They've been I guess the premier preoccupation of my life, and they've formed a lot of how I understand and perceive life and live life, rightly or wrongly. In many cases, like because of movies, I believe in three-act structure, happy endings, conclusions, a journey from which one learns from. And that's not how life is structured. Sometimes there is no third act. And um, so movies have like, I've taken them so seriously that they became my life. Like that's how I paid the bills. And you know, f- so they represent salvation. Like, they, this sounds weird, but they pulled me out of my parents' house. Otherwise, I'd probably still be living with my parents. Um, they introduced me to the world, gave me like a career, not just a job, and entertained me. Like long before I was doing it for a living, movies were where I went for safety, security, comfort. That was my favorite place to be. In a movie theater or in front of the TV, watching cable, watching DVDs, well, VHSs first, and then DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff. And I was lucky enough and have been lucky enough, and we'll see if it continues, to be able to to make a living off of doing the thing that I was always so enamored by and with. So, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say, but yeah, movies mean absolutely everything to me, which is a shame because foundationally they're fucking lies, right? Like they're all
Yeah.
stories, parables at the end of the day. And, you know, nothing to build the foundation of a real life on by any stretch of the imagination. But thankfully, um, they, if you're lucky, not even talented, but if you're lucky, like you gravitate toward that. And that thing that captured your imagination as a kid, like you could wind up doing for a living. So they're beyond magical. You know, they're transporting when you're sitting there watching a movie. But in my life, movies have been beyond simply magical in that way. They transported me to an entire ass career. So yeah, it's still to this day my favorite medium, hands down. Which made it very easy to buy a movie theater because, like, you know, I believe in the dream. The lights go down, the curtains open. Let's go on a journey together.
Thanks so much for your time, man. This truly means the world. Do you have anything
No
to
worries.
say? Do you have anything to say to the Kevin Smith fans in the Middle East?
Yes, I'm coming, kids. They can't stop me from coming hard. All over your face, neck, and chest. I'll be there. Not saying that, though, because they probably won't let me say that sort of thing out loud. But I can't wait to come see y'all. Mojito, I can't thank you enough for making the journey, man. Like, it was crazy when we were chit-chatting and you were talking, like at Chronicon, and you talked about how long you had flown to go to the event. Like, that meant the absolute world to me, man.
It meant the absolute world to share that whole experience with you, man. So that's it for this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe mine and Kevin's socials. And thank you so much, Kevin, and hope to interview you again sometime. And thank you, man.
Anytime you need me, let's do it. We'll check in twice a year at the very least, man. Anytime you need me, I'm happy to have a mojito with Mojito.
Thank you, man. This truly means the world. This took so long to get this interview done, but
I know we got it done though. We can do it again too down the road, man. No problem.
thank you so much, man. This truly means the absolute world. This legit made my entire year. I know, like, I'm kind of repeating myself, but this is freaking beautiful. And also, I want to show you real quick. Look at this T-shirt that I printed out.
Oh my God, that's phenomenal.
I
That's
posted this on
hysterical.
Twitter,
Oh
and
my
there's
God,
like the entire Bob and everyone there. And
that is
I made the design.
that's tremendous, man. And look at you right at the top with the
The
kid.
only
Oh,
song
that's
we're
everything.
taking a T-shirt out of.
Put it
And
out on whatchamacallit, on what is the T Public, man. That's where I get my Kevin Smith t-shirts. You can put that
oh
design up, somebody will fucking buy that for sure.
and I wanted to show you real quick. This is my other room where I just like watch TV shows and shit. And over here, I put like my Jay and Silent Bob reboot poster signed by you guys and Clerks and the 430 movie.
430 movie. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
My other stuff is like in my other room. You want me to show you real quick? I could
Yeah, let me see.
1 second. I
Mojito,
gotta
what's
run.
with all that water? I guess because you're in the desert, you're like, we
Well,
need
that's like
water.
a storage kind of shit.
Oh
And over here, this is my room with the autographed stuff.
shit. Oh,
And
that's awesome.
you and this one, Clerks too. This was
Look
signed
at that.
by Rosario.
Oh,
And
nice. Where'd you see her?
no, I didn't see her. It was like a sentence service,
Sent it
but
in. Yeah, yeah.
he did say like two mojitos, so that's really good.
That is very
And
cool.
a bunch of these are and this one is by you and Jay, but this one I got from Waleed, who's in the call right now. I met the Terminator cast from like Fan Expo. I went to Fan Expo for Chicago. That was my first time ever going to Chicago, and this was
That's the
sent by
first
Hugh
time.
Jackman. Yeah, and for Chronicon, that's my second time to go to Chicago, and
Nice.
Conan O'Brien, and
There's a Conan piece. Wow.
yeah. Also, this one is my personal favorite, Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh yeah, that's from that was one that we have at we gave out here at the theater at one point. That's a nice one.
so beautiful. And this is where we were supposed to film our interview, but the internet was not working, and I was just like legit freaking out so much.
That
Like
room is
I don't know
gorgeous.
why the internet was not working.
Oh, no worries, no worries. But
Yeah,
that room is awesome, man. That looks great.
thank you so much, man. And it was really nice spending time. I know you have to go somewhere to Small Castle Cinemas, so
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
let you go right
downstairs.
now. So see you, man.
Good seeing you, Mojito. Many thanks.
Bye, bye, Kevin.
All right, bye bye.